Hoping more people could just join us in a few minutes. People usually trickle in. But those of you who've joined, thank you so much for being here. We have a very exciting conversation designed for you, and we hope that you take incredible insights from here and also get to know a little bit more about us. So that's where I will start. I'm Amina, and at the Circle, we are reinventing schools, after schools, and teacher training institutions, all towards a deep sense of belief that we have, which is to really empower children in low income communities to live a life that's filled with opportunity and choice. And we do that through, as I mentioned, schools, after schools, and teacher training programs. We run a couple of programs, but we largely work in three streams. We have an incubation, which is a 2-year program for entrepreneurs who want to start their own schools and after schools in low income communities, and they're ready to jump in and build something with us for years to come. With the incubation, a parallel program that we run is something called the Circle Labs, where we conduct a lot of short term programming throughout the year, which is geared towards building capacity in educators, school leaders, entrepreneurs, and even young people to think about what does it even mean to reinvent, what are some tools and ideas out there for me, and can I be experimenting and innovating in my context to hopefully understand what works and take bigger leaps, which is either through the incubation or doing something of your own. And if you're in your classroom, you take that to the context that you are in. The third program is Circle U, which is the newest flagship program that we've launched, where we are reinventing what teacher training could look like. We believe that teachers are a huge part of a student's journey. It's they are almost irreplaceable, but we believe that teacher training needs to be questioned. It needs to be rehauled. We need to go deeper and really bring to teachers, especially in low income contexts, the quality and depth that they deserve. Currently, Circle U is working with over 100 teachers across India. And Amalya, who will be leading this conversation today, is a part of our team and leads the work at Circle U. We have a very exciting conversation behind which the idea was that when we think about reinvention and all these innovative ideas, we think that sometimes it's too far fetched. It's really out there for us. How do we even go there? It seems like a long, lonely road. And we want to just make that, we want to question that. We want to question that maybe there is something that you could do today or as soon as tomorrow to bring to your children what is it that they really need. So we've gotten together three stakeholders who work in and around the system in schools, who can tell you what is possible in the current constraints. We'll introduce them in just a little bit. But before we do that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about uh, a few opportunities that are open at the Circle that we would be very excited to share with you, and hopefully you can leverage them. It's coming up in your chat. We give out innovation grants to people who want to experiment in their context. They have a project, an idea that they believe can potentially transform the life and learning outcomes for children in their low income context. This is something you've been wanting to do for a long time, but currently the circumstances don't allow it. Send us a proposal, send us a project idea by 11:59 p.m. tonight, and we will be assessing that for a potential grant of up to 1 lakh. Yep. And the second one is a cohort based program that we'll be starting very soon, led by Amalya and the Circle U team, where we are bringing together teachers for a 4-day intensive to really dip their feet into what reinvention specifically in their classroom could look like. It's a short program, it's a short application. Give it a shot. We'll bring up these links towards the end as well, but you can just pin it for yourself. Before handing it over to Amalya, we are going to be hearing about Debatri, Fatima, and Sanket's work at length. And we'll also have spaces for you to jump in and ask questions and just pull in all the insights available here. So feel free to keep populating the chat, and we'll have spaces in the middle and towards the end to take in your questions. That's about it. Enjoy, and over to you, Amalia.
Thank you so much, Amina. Folks, very, very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining after a long day, and it's so lovely to see so many people on this call. I think, as Amina shared, the idea behind this panel is just to deep dive into the idea of reinvention and to explore how so often we hear the word and feel like, oh my God, it has to be something completely unbelievable, completely new from what I'm doing. And I think what we really wanted to try to explore today is that maybe reinvention is in the daily practices that we do consistently, whether it's at a classroom level, at a school level, or at a systems level. And what better way to do it than explore it through educators who are doing the work every single day and reinventing on the ground. And all of us were going through your sign up form, and we saw, we have teachers, principals, school leaders, and school coordinators on this call from across the country. So our hope is that with the educators who sort of share their experiences here, we're able to cater to your diverse backgrounds and also really want to hold space for you all to ask us questions and really make the most of this space. I think without further delay, I am very excited to introduce the three educators here. And the way we're going to do it is we'll start with an educator. The educator will share a little bit around their experiences, how they look at reinvention, and how they're reinventing in their context. After which, we'll open up just for a little bit for questions, move to the next educator. And lastly, once we're done with all three, we'll hold space for a panel Q&A where you'll have the space to ask your questions. Through this space, though, I encourage you to share your reflections and questions on the chat box so that we can track it and we can try our best to sort of tailor the end panel discussion to your questions. Okay, I'm very, very excited to introduce three of them today, Sanket, Fatima, and Devatri. Sanket is a grade 7 math and science teacher at the moment, and he's pretty much reinventing at a classroom level every day. I'll share more when he shares his piece. Fatima is a school leader at Abudaya Nagar in Bombay. She's been a school leader for a while and a teacher before that. And finally, Debatri, who started her journey as a classroom teacher and is now working at a systems level. She was at CSF, and she's moved forward at the moment to the Convergence Foundation. She's been consulting at the Circle and just doing a lot of fun, beautiful work at a systems level. Yeah, very excited to start us off. Sanket, if we can start with you. Before we deep dive, folks, a little bit on Sanket's background. Sanket, can you wave to everybody so we know? Amazing. Okay, so Sanket actually is his background, and I'm going to hand over to you in a minute, is in chemical engineering. So he's done his bachelor's and a PhD in chemical engineering in the US. And he came back to India, and in 2021, he actually moved to teaching children. And he taught grade 8, 9, and 10. That was his first batch of students, math and science. And then since then, he's been teaching different groups of children, middle school and secondary. I think more personally, Sanket and I actually taught the same children, and that's how I know him. And I think since then to now, I just think every single lesson I've been a part of, or every time I have a conversation with him, I'm just so pushed with respect to vision of excellence because of the excellence and relevance he brings into his lesson. Like, I think, Sanket, you're probably the strongest, most innovative math and science teacher I know. So thank you for making the time. Thank you for being here. And as you interact with him, you'll see how his eyes light up when he shares his ideas with you. So Sanket, I'm going to hand over to you. And for the next 10 to 15 minutes, he'll be sharing about how he views reinvention as well as how he reinvents on a daily basis in his classroom. So Sanket, over to you, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Uh, Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Amalia, for providing me with this opportunity. Very grateful. Am I audible? Yeah, let me share my screen. I'm getting an error message saying someone else is sharing.
Give us a
Try
second.
now. Thank you.
Yeah, now I can. Okay. So basically, I'll start with sharing a little bit about myself. So as Amalia mentioned, I did my bachelor's in chemical engineering from ICT Mumbai, and then I did a PhD in chemical engineering from UMass Amherst, US, in 2021. And right after that, I joined the Teach for India Fellowship. I taught for 3 years at Dharavi Transit Camp Municipal School, 8th, 9th, 10th, Math and Science. After that, I taught for 1 year at DN Nagar MPS in Andheri West. I taught 8th, 9th, 10th Maths. And currently, I'm teaching at Nehru Nagar MPS in Kurla, Mumbai. I teach grade 7 Math and Science. So, this is about me. And what does reinvention mean to me? So the first thing is that uh, reinvention means building mindsets that math and science are all around us, and learning math and science is fun. Second is connecting math and science to environmental and social justice is something that I'm really passionate about. And third, building purpose, inner motivation, and leadership in students. So these are three things that reinvention means to me. And I'm going to talk about it one by one. This is a picture of me from last week. I'm doing some heat experiments in class. So let's go. So the first thing is class decor. So I feel like when students come in class, like they see around them, and I feel your classroom walls speak a lot about what mindsets you want to bring, build in the students. So these are my classroom walls. I have some quotes over here. Some of them one of them is picked from IT school. I spotted it on one of my visits. Another one is picked from Wendy Kopp's book called A Chance to Make History. And then I have the constitutional values. I have student vision scale from TFI. So my students see all of these every day and then they feel inspired. Also, as far as math and science is concerned, I have certain things put up in my classroom that inspire the mindsets that I want to build. So these are some photographs from railway stations in Mumbai, local train stations, and I'm showing the students how you can spot different angles, pairs of angles. So says math is all around us, गणित हमारे चारों ओर है. And then there is a small corner which I call science corner or Vigyan ka Kona, where I put up some plants and you'll see more photos, which is dedicated to science. And every week we read about one scientist, their life and struggles, and we learn more about what it means to be a scientist. So students feel more related to like scientists are like real human beings, and they learn about. So basically the idea is to show students that we can learn math and science while walking, traveling, cooking, playing sports, doing our daily chores and so on. And math and science are all around us. So that's the biggest mindset I want to build in my students. Now we'll go to my math classes. They basically look like these. These are the two pictures where students are measuring the height of school building using a device that we built called planometer, and we are using trigonometry, measuring angles and finding the height of a school, height of our school building. Here there are some students working with arithmetic progression using foam blocks. So basically diving deeper into the concept before we even go to any formulas. The students come up with their own formulas by starting from scratch. Uh, Then we have over here, there are students trying to measure the volume of a cylinder. So generally the textbooks just give formulas, but what does actual volume of the cylinder mean? How can we measure it using a measuring tape? So the students brought their own cylinders, like um, whatever's around them, they see water bottles, whatever, and I gave them measuring tapes. They are measuring the height, radii, and calculating the volume. Here there is Pythagoras theorem. So this is where the students are using a knotted rope. It has 12 knots, and the it used to be used in Egypt many thousands of years ago, where to make a right angle, the Egyptians would use this rope, and it can be arranged in only one form. Like it will have sides 3, 4, 5, and that's only when it will bring a right angle. So the students are exploring. Can there can be no other way it would form a right angle triangle except when it is arranged in a 3, 4, 5 ratio. Then they are exploring Pythagoras theorem using Jodo blocks. These are some manipulative tools. Here they are deriving formulas for different surface areas. Here we actually used sweet lime and peeled it, and um, if there are four circles, so pi r square, pi r square, pi r square, pi r square gives a surface area of 4 pi r square for a sphere. So basically, we estimated the surface area of a sphere using a sweet line, which actually looks like a sphere. So all of these places, you can see that the students are actually deriving the formulas rather than learning them. So basically, they know how the formula came up visually. They actually themselves experimented with and explored. So that makes a lot of sense for them. They can go back and understand it better. Here you see a Babylonian tablet, which is 3,700 years old. And if you see that tablet, you can actually see some rectangles and right angle triangles on it. So this is how I connect math to history, where the students see that, oh, whatever we are learning, someone was doing it 3,700 years ago as well. So that's like very cool. And students feel like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty much doing something similar. And this has had a long history of when there was not actual proper science and textbooks. Yeah. Now we'll move to science, and what I see in these pictures is a lot of happy faces. Like you see students enjoying what they are doing, and more than math, I see students hating science. And the reason they hate science is because most educators try to teach it directly from the textbook, and our textbooks are not so great. So students end up finding it boring, and I feel if they are given a chance to learn by doing, um, they learn, like even the student who struggles the most with like comprehension and reading skills has something to take away. Like, okay, I learned this small thing. I may not be able to write it, but I know this as something scientific learning I have. So here we are exploring Bernoulli's principle. The students are trying out different experiments. Here I'm doing some experiments. Here we are checking the water holding capacity of various soils. So here the students brought their Bisleri bottles and cloths, and we filtered, we measured how much water capacity. Amalia, give me a time check. If I hope I have time. Yeah. Here we are exploring and identifying the parts of a hibiscus flower. So I do these kind of activities in groups. Like the students have something, have to make a chart. So they're discussing, exploring how parts of flowers. Here we are studying natural selection, where I've put up some photographs of the Galapagos finches that Darwin studied, and the students are spotting differences. They actually came up with their own understanding. Oh, like I didn't explain them what natural selection is. Like I just gave them guiding questions, and they kept on um, forming their logics, and that way, like in the end they were like, like now we know what natural selection is. So that's great. So these are some experiments for static electricity, and I feel these were the most enjoyable. Like the students had a great time. Like they were just like everyone wants to do them. So these are some static electricity experiments. The next part I would like to talk about is how, like most for most of our students, like education means limited to the classroom. And so you come to the school, you learn and go. Even if you make it hands-on, like their view of seeing education is like, okay, I can just learn it in the classroom, and outside is some completely alien world. So, but what mindset I try to develop for them is that when you step out also as you're walking, you can see science all around yourself. And unless they're given that head start, I would say, like they don't develop that mindset. So here we are in a garden next to school, and we are learning about the structure of plants. And the leaf shapes and stuff, and it actually works. Like after a few days I did this, my students are walking around the street, and then they are like, see, I spotted this like leaf, and next day they'll tell me, I saw this compound leaf, or I saw this leaf with this shape. So it starts working. Like as they're walking, they start seeing around themselves. Here we are, this was in Dharavi, it's outside our classroom. There used to be a soda vendor, and he made this soda by compressing carbon dioxide in water, and that's essentially carbonic acid. So I was teaching acids and bases at the time. I took the students to the soda wala, and I was like, just listen to him. And he was so excited to explain how he makes soda, and the kids remembered it forever. Here we in Dharavi Dharavi recycles most of Mumbai's plastic, and I took this opportunity to take them to the recycling hub, and the students saw actually how the plastic gets collected, it gets broken into pieces, then how it gets recycled, and that was a big learning for the students. I also am very passionate about connecting science to social justice and environmental justice, because I feel that science and all the problems around us cannot be separated. So here, I usually bring in articles related to the chapter. So here we are, after we did the soil experiments, we read this article about why Indian farmers can't escape the trap of monocropping. Why do they have to keep doing the same crop again and again, even if, and how it has to deal with some government policies. So I brought in some constitutional values there. So that is something I like to do. Here we had gone to the Godrej mangroves in Vikhroli in Mumbai, and we studied about the role of mangroves in protecting the Mumbai city from floods. Here we did an entire project on climate change and renewable energy, and this one on waste segregation and recycling. And all these projects were presented to the school community as well as parents community. So the students felt really good that so many people came and listened to them, as well as the parents learned a lot as well. So uh, that was something. Now, I feel that all of this being said, it becomes like, why should students even take interest in doing all of this? Like, I know it's interesting, but unless there is a purpose for students to be in school and they have some inner motivation and goal, uh, I don't think a lot of this can be achieved. So one of my other things that I do is try to build purpose, how to connect school to the outside world or what's coming after. So I had this chart actually, saw it from IT schools in Pune. We are on a mission to walk into the top colleges of Mumbai, and I had put this chart in my eighth standard in my classroom, and my students used to see it all the time and know that, okay, this is what I need to work towards if I want to get into some of these colleges after grade 10. Uh, these are in two different schools. This is in DN Nagar and this is in Dharavi. In every school, I invited the alumni of that same school who had studied before, and the students could directly connect to them, and they shared their challenges, stories. I feel that we need to have that connection between alumni and current students, because they can inspire them, and a lot of that. This is something I have found like immensely valuable in making student work better, improving like the student written work. So what I do is, first of all, I hold a very high bar of expectations from what students write on their paper, how they present their work. And once an exam is over, I, instead of me typing out or writing the solution of that assessment, I pick up snapshots of my best exemplar student work. I put them together and share it with the whole class. So here, and with the student name also. So you can see that how these students have written answers. The other students feel motivated. One, that, okay, my peer is able to do, so I can also do it. So rather than me showing them what's the exemplar, they see how their peers are doing. And it also helps in like aligning with the board paper pattern. So I also give them tips that, okay, this is the way. So these are answers written by seventh grade students, my current seventh grade students, and you can see them, they are at the quality or level of like grade 10 answers. So once these kids go to grade 10, I'm sure they would be doing very well. The other thing is student leadership and peer learning. So here, my students slowly, after they got motivated, these are my Dharavi students, they started teaching each other, and I made spaces for that. Started teaching each other, started taking math classes, started teaching in small groups in their homes. So these are all student-led small group instructions happening in some of their homes. Um,
Sanket,
yeah, so
take 1 more minute to
okay,
wrap
okay, I'm done.
as
Yeah, yeah,
possible. Sorry.
I'm done. Last slide. Yeah. So, and finally, just telling you what all this led to, specifically now focusing on my Dharavi classroom, but similar outcomes in other classrooms also. I had 95% of my student pass the exam, and out of which uh, 75% scored above 60%. So, and main thing was 45% chose science stream in grade 11, which usually doesn't happen. So my students got a lot of interest in science and math that led to most of them choosing science. They also developed a keen interest and love for math and science. They developed a mindset that learning can also be fun. They developed a critical thinking lens, so they started analyzing things around them through a scientific lens, and a lot of inner motivation to excel. So yeah, with that, and that's thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanket. I can see lots of claps and hearts being presented and smiles. So, really grateful to you for sharing. I think it's such a beautiful example of real life examples, hands on learning, and at the same time you're using all of that to build mindset and prep them towards the board, but beyond the board as well, right? Really preparing them for life. I'd love to actually open up the space for the next few minutes for anyone who has a question for Sanket in his planning process and the activities he did. Sort of, I'm really curious to know more about like how you balance the piece on board readiness and holistic learning. So yeah, I just wanted to open it up to folks for any questions you may have for Sanket. You can either come off mute or put it on the chat box. Yeah. Ratna, I see your hand raised. I hope I'm
Yeah,
pronouncing your name. Please go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Thank you, Sanket. It's a wonderful work that you have been doing. We are running an after-school program in Bangalore, and we focus on English, maths, and science. So, a lot to learn from your work. My question to you is, how regarding this experiment, all of that. So, do you conduct all of this on a regular basis, or just like a few sessions once in a while? Like in each quarter, you conduct 10 sessions on maths and science and taking them out, or are you preparing them with the experiments on a daily basis?
uh, Almost on a regular basis, like maybe twice a week, or sometimes some chapters have more opportunities for experiments. That time I would do them more. Sometimes there would be a couple of weeks gone without any activities or experiments, but definitely quite a few every month.
Like, what will be your recommendation for us if we have to really replicate some of the works what you do for with our children? Should we plan like a few sessions on science and max conducting, or do you recommend to recruit good science and max teacher who can able to spend a lot of time with the high school children?
So basically, if you are doing five lessons for a chapter, like 5 slots, then you can do two out of 5 slots for doing activities or experiments. Rest 3 slots for maybe writing practice or something that is aligned with exams.
Yeah, thanks, Sanket.
I have a question if I can. Sorry, I'm not able to raise my hand. I'm Arnav, by the way, from Guiding Dreams. Sanket, thank you so much for sharing your work. Uh, I have a question regarding, like, when I was looking at the pictures that you presented, I saw so many students, right? Like in groups. So there's definitely a lot of teamwork involved in what they are doing. But my question is around what do you do? How do you manage the students who are not very active or they might have some withdrawal? How do you also include them in ensuring that everyone learns and progresses? Yes.
So basically, if there is an activity, I would probably give them the leadership to perform something like deliberately ask them to do the experiment or something. If it's chart making or something, many of the students are usually not active. You still like to draw something or like make a border or like put the heading. So
Yeah.
some of the other way, I try to involve them by giving them some work. Like,
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Arnab. Thank you, Ratna, for asking, and thank you, Sanket. I see questions in the chat box as well from Megha around the PED method you use for planning, as well as if you can share lesson template. Megha, if you're okay with it, we'll come back to that towards the end of the panel. And Sanket, just make note if you want a message. Megha,
Sure.
just with the purpose of time, but thank you so much, Megha. We will move forward to our next panelist, Fatima. Sanket, thank you for sharing. And essentially, what you saw Sanket share was at a classroom level, right? So he, for the past 5 to 6 years now, has really taught and mastered at a secondary level and continuously experimented. We're gonna move one level further now to Fatima, who's essentially a school leader. So Fatima joined Akanksha in 2018 as a grade 10 teacher. She gradually moved to an assistant school leader and then to the school leader role. So she's been in the school leader position for the past 4 years. And I think starting off very much in depth and then saying, okay, I'm going to move one altitude higher now. I think Abodaya Nagar at Akanksha is actually one of the highest performing Akanksha schools. Fatima has visitors almost every week calling her, me being one of them, saying, hey, can we come? Can we see kindergarten or can we see your student council? So I just think there's so much of innovation happening that is leading to exceptional outcomes within our state curriculum and beyond. So you have students from Abhyudaya Nagar just constantly pushing the bar for what is possible with kids from low-income communities. I think it's so beautiful to just have Fatima here because while she's so amazing at her work, just her readiness to share, like anytime you ask her, hey Fatima, can you support us with this? Or can we visit? She's just someone who really stands for high expectations and kindness. And yeah, very grateful to have you here. I'll open it up to Fatima to talk about reinvention at a school level now, and how she sort of sets up the system with her team as well as students across her school to drive for reinvention and excellence. So Fatima, over to you.
Thank you, Amalia, for the introduction. So I'll just share screen and then begin. Okay, Amalia, are you able to see the Canva PPT?
We're able to see it, Fatima, but yeah, if you click present, we'll be able to see it in full screen. Yeah, amazing. We can see it.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you first of all, Amalia, for the introduction. Just very happy to be here, be a part of this session, deeply inspired by Sanket's, the way he shared about amazing work that he's doing with math and science. Just, coming to the theme, small shifts and big change. In the next 10-15 minutes, I'll take you through the key school goal that we're focusing on with respect to the theme for the session today, and how we're reinventing on a day-to-day basis in order to achieve that goal, which in turn has led to building a sense of community and belonging, and what systems and routines we have in place at Abhyudaya Nagar that have helped us in achieving all of this with relative ease and consistency. So here's the goal. We, of course, have a lot of goals in school, but one of the key goals is empowering diverse learners. So 3 years ago, when we sat down, to revise the school goals, one term that we had at the core was empowering diverse learners. So learners which are diverse cognitively, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally, by incorporating sharp principles, which basically include 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creative thinking, setting very high expectations and providing opportunities that lead to high engagement of students, and making learning as authentic, rigorous, and personalized as possible. So there are a lot of practices that we implement at school. So I'll just share a few practices, and then when you open up for Q&A, I can share more. So here I'll talk about communication and collaboration. So we stress a lot on having as much student voice in class as possible through 2 key activities which are integrated in classes on a day-to-day basis. The first one being communication through TPS, which is a Think, Pair, Share activity. And over the last couple of years, as a team, we have really stressed a lot on having a good question that really promotes thinking. And the best part is when it's time for the students to share with the larger group, they have to share what their partner has told. So that calls for active listening. The second piece is collaboration through group activities, where again the groups are structured. There's a note taker, there's a facilitator, there's a speaker, and there's a timekeeper. The facilitator ensures that each and every student in the group is heard. Their ideas are noted down. Their opinions are made note. They make a note of their opinions, and when they share with the larger group, it's the team's voice that gets shared with the entire class. Just to share a glimpse of how collaboration looks like at Abhyudaya. So there you can see the student really pushing the group members' thinking, and ensuring that each and every group member responds to the question that is given by the teacher as a part of the activity. So TPS and group activity is an integral part on a day-to-day basis. Next, as a team, what we figured out is when it comes to incorporating sharp principles, effective questioning is one of the most powerful tool that we can use. So just asking the right question ensures that students can relate learning to their daily life, which makes it authentic. It pushes the students' thinking and thus promotes critical thinking. Students can analyze, evaluate, judge, infer, distinguish, compare, contrast, just on the basis of the right question that the teacher asks. And of course, asking as many application-based questions, personal response, open-ended questions as possible. Again, connecting this back to the fact that we want as much of student voice in the classroom. Here, we try to create spaces where it's not only teachers asking questions, we also encourage students asking questions to their group members or to the larger class. And and at the same time, we ensure that they feel as free as possible to share their thoughts. So something that comes to my mind is very recently, a teacher was teaching a concept related to applying Gandhiji's principles in real life. And the first principle that she was talking about was related to truth. And the statement that she said is, it's very important to say truth at all times. How many of you agree? And as an observer in that class, I was amazed to see only one hand going up, and the rest of the students actually disagreed with the statement. So when the teacher asked the students to respond as to why they disagree to the statement that, we need to be honest and truthful at all times, we were amazed to hear the responses that they had to give. Some of them being, so one student said that, Didi, when someone calls us and asks us to share our ATM pin and bank account details, we cannot be truthful at that time and we cannot give away all the details. Then another student shared that, Didi, when we hear two students talking about another student, I cannot go and tell the third person that, see, this is what they were talking about. Yeah, I will be truthful at that point of time, but it may just lead to some friendships being broken. So the conversation that I witnessed was so insightful, and for the first time I also thought that, yes, when we say that we have to be truthful, we need to put some terms and conditions over there as well, because each situation is different. So that's just one example that I wanted to share about of how students in our school feel very comfortable to agree to disagree and to share their opinions with as much confidence as possible. Then very interesting, just integrating technology, a powerful tool that I'm sure all of us have explored, especially during and post lockdown. What we also realized over a period of time is students, when it comes to using technology, are quick learners. They really understand how to use apps and devices as fast as possible. So we have been exploring different apps like quizzes, Padlet. Again, Padlet is used as an app that lets students to voice out, share their opinions, share their ideas, and it's just available for all the students. The comments are available for all the students to read. Then we explore Google Earth, Keynote, and various other apps that teachers also come across. We try to use them in our classes as much as possible, but the idea being making learning as purposeful and as meaningful as possible by integrating technology. And at the same time, yes, we're using technology, but maintaining the essence of buddy work and group work. So though the students are sitting with a device in their hand, the activity is planned in such a way that they still have to do some research together with their peers or with their groups, come up with a common response and share with the larger team. So the essence of student voice is still maintained even when students are using or integrating technology in learning. Uh, this, I think, is an absolute favorite of our team, creating spaces to build leadership skills in students. So we have something called as morning meeting. Our day begins with 10 minutes of morning meeting where students share about concerns or challenges that they faced in the previous day, and together they brainstorm solutions. It is also a space to be grateful, to be kind, to thank peers for different ways in which they must have helped them on the previous day. Our teachers are now exploring ways in which this space can be student-led. So in rotation, two students come out and they facilitate these morning meetings. That becomes a student-led morning meeting. Then we have something called as a transition practice. So at APMPS, we have 8 slots a day. Depending upon the energy level of the students, if they are low on energy, we have an energizer in between two classes. If they are very high on energy, and we need to get the students back to focus on the next class, we have a calming down practice. And as you can see in one of the pictures over here on the right, it's a grade 3 student who is facilitating that transition activity. So we have these transition activities after every class, and right from grade 1, two students come out and they facilitate the transition practice and the entire class follows them. Then we have something called as the Student Digital Leadership Program. So just connecting to what I said earlier, a realization that we had as a team, students learn technology really quick. So we have made this club, which includes student digital leaders. Whenever it's time for us to explore a new app, the adults or the teachers take that app to the student digital leaders. They learn how to use the app. They learn how to research, how to learn better using that certain features which are there in the app. And once they have thorough knowledge, the students in turn conduct PD sessions for teachers during the staff meeting. So in this picture, you can see students teaching how to use Google Earth and Keynote feature in iPad during one of the staff meetings conducted recently. So this is again a practice that we started a couple of years ago, and keeping the bandwidth of the teachers and the adults in school in mind, this practice has really come in handy, where the students explore, they master how to use a particular app, and then they come and they provide training using examples of different subjects. During the staff meetings, I've written SC over here, which is the student council. Student council is completely student led, so they are very aware of what is happening in the school on a day-to-day basis. They figure out what challenges the non-council members are facing. Based on that, they fix the agenda for the meeting. Student council members facilitate the student council meetings. They take the attendance, they maintain minutes of the meeting and share it on our student council group. So it is a completely independently functioning body in the school. Next, again, very interesting, external partnerships. So at any given point of time, we work with around 10 to 12 external partners, which based on the interest that the students have, they join different partnerships. They become a part of different after school programs. So that includes drama, singing, coding, then CAL project, which is the CTS lab project, STEM related project is Project Rise, etc. The best part over here is, for all external partnerships, we have student POCs. So each POC, for example, for any external partnership, if TV is required, if a particular class is required, the POCs ensure that the class is clean, it's available, TV is set, modem is set, and the facilitator, so that the facilitator can start and hence finish the session on time, because all these partnerships are after school programs. So the kids also really value starting the program on time, starting the session on time, and ensuring that it also ends on time. WhatsApp groups are made. Students remind each other of the homework that needs to be done, help each other in completing the homework, so that everyone is on track. And then the last one related to student goal settings. At the beginning of the academic year, we have one-on-one student goal setting conversation with each student in school, which is approximately for 20 minutes. Now, the best part of this conversation is goals are co-created. So the student, based on their EOY performance, based on their social, behavioral, emotional needs, figure out what goals they want to set for themselves. And then they also figure out how they would want to achieve that goal, with, of course, a certain guidance given by the teacher, and the same goes for the parent as well. So it becomes a space for the students to create goals for themselves, and that is how we get more buy-in from them. So these are some of the practices that we have at Abhyudaya. And just coming back to reinvention, so most of the practices remain the same. What we've done over a period of time is reinvented when it comes to how of the practice. So if it's integrating technology, how can we ensure that it's more purposeful and meaningful? When it comes to transition activity, how do we ensure that it's more student-led? When it comes to integrating technology, again, how do we ensure that the students take ownership of learning and doing research? So that's how we've reinvented in some of our micro practices. What is the outcome of that? We've not very consciously worked towards it as such, but what we've realized over a period of time is what you see on the screen has become like a byproduct or an outcome of the spaces that we have created in our school, and so important, right? It has really helped the school in building a sense of community and belonging. So after every unit assessment, one is, of course, during one-on-one PTM, individual scores are shared. At the same time, each teacher also ensures that the class average is shared with the entire class. So, and the discussion happens in such a way that today each and every student is as much interested and cares as much about the overall, progress of the class as they care about their own progress. So they want the class average also to increase, and they connect it to peer support, buddy support, learning circles where the students sit together. It's a concept that we started a year ago, where students sit together in learning circles. So let's say if the circle is made up of 7 students, each student will share whatever concept or bit of content that they have mastered, and towards the end of that discussion, each of them moves out of the circle with much more learning as compared to what they came in with. So and what is the motivation over here? Students want the class average also to increase. It has helped in developing active listening, because as I shared earlier, when it comes to think, pair, share, when it comes to group activity, during conversation, of course, students share whatever is there in their mind. But when it comes to sharing with the entire class, the norm is you have to share what your partner has told you. So that has really led to active listening, empathy, compassion, encouraging, guiding the partner to share, so that the group has some meaningful responses to contribute when it comes to the activity. It has led to shared responsibility. As we all know, teachers, I mean, bandwidth is a challenge for the teachers. So when it comes to it becomes a shared responsibility. Okay, monotony comes in when we are taking back to back classes. So students need movement break. We have students who facilitate that movement break. When it comes to using technology, we have digital monitors who keep the TV, the modem, everything ready. They also help, especially when each student has a device to use in a class of 40. It may get difficult for the teacher to alone solve logistical issues. So we have group POCs who ensure that in their group, every student's logistical issue is resolved, so that they can start the activity as soon as possible. So again, their empathy,
Fatima, I'm
compassion
so
comes in.
sorry. Fatima, can we
Yes.
take 30 more seconds? Would that be
Yes,
possible?
yes, done,
Okay,
done, done,
thank
done.
you so much.
Yes. So it has led to building a sense of community and belonging. And what has helped us, setting norms and agreements at the beginning of the year and reiterating them on a day-to-day basis. Morning meetings, circle time, social, emotional, and ethical learning classes, where we have a lot of conversations again around gratitude, compassion, empathy, kindness, and how does that look like in action. Same goes for advisory, empowerment classes, and use of academic spaces to have as much student voice as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for sharing. That's so in depth. I think just so many rich learnings from what you shared. And what I loved was just the very micro practices you got into, right? Like think, pair, share, that can be a game changer for making sure voice is equitable in the classroom, or student leadership, or your routines that have led to so much. So, yeah, just learning a lot from what you share. I'd love to open it up for the next minute for anyone who has a burning question, anything you'd like to ask Fatima on what she's presented or otherwise. And you can do this in the chat box. You can come off mute directly, whatever you prefer. Okay, Apurva, I see your hand raised. Go for it. I hope I said your name correctly.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Fatima, for sharing all of your practices. I hope I'm audible. Yes, okay, great. I just wanted to quickly ask you to share some examples of transition activities as you showed on your slide. Could you give some examples of transition activities that the students do in classes?
Yes. So the latest one being coming up with songs. So the teacher and the students invest some time in ensuring that the entire class learns the lyrics of the song, and then the student facilitators come forward. All of them together sing that song, and that song basically can have lyrics related to just feeling energized, saying, I am kind, I am confident, I can complete my work on time. So something like that. They'll have rhyming words. So that's one of the examples. Secondly, if the class is really high on energy and we need to get them back, breathing exercise, grounding, asking them to touch the bench. So just basically mentally coming to the present time, or so grounding when it comes to enabling students in calming down. Then if we feel that the class is low on energy, just getting up. Here our PE teacher has has contributed a lot in coming up with energizers. So just jogging in their own place, or doing some hand movement in classes. So these are some of the examples of energizers that we do. And songs also are action songs. So students do some actions and they sing the songs, and that's how they feel kind of joyful and happy and prepared for the next class.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Apurva. Prashansa, I see you have a question. Can we, okay, can we park it or put it on the chat box? And then once Devatri is done, we'll come back to it. Yeah, sorry. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Fatima, for sharing that beautiful presentation with us. And we'll move on to our last presenter, Debatri. I'll introduce her. So Debatri, a very interesting journey where she started her journey as a classroom teacher with Teach for India. She taught younger kids, so elementary children back in 2018, after which 2016, sorry, after which she served as a teacher coach. Coach teachers in the Malvani area in Bombay. And finally, she served as a project lead at Central Square Foundation over the past few years. So she's sort of gone from classroom to system. And there she's led multiple projects with foundational literacy curriculum projects, teacher capacity building at the state level. So she's worked with the UP government, she's worked with different governments to sort of work on curriculum at scale. And I think more personally, so we've actually been teacher coaches together. And yeah, I just think the bar of excellence that she brings into anything she does, and you'll see that very shortly with the work that she presents, is actually quite mind blowing to see her ability to take an idea at depth and drive it with a lot of clarity and quality at scale. So, Debatri, very warm welcome and very excited to see you present your learnings from the classroom to a system level. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much, Amalia. And hi, everyone. Really excited to be here and very, very impressed and very inspired by Sanket and Fatima, who's just gone before me. I will use my deck to sort of start off with my introduction. So just give me a second while I share my screen. Are you able to see my PPT?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so very quickly, just like Amalia said, I'll not spend too much of a time in my introduction, but this is what my journey has essentially looked like. I started off in the classroom, like many of you who are here. Post that, I was working as a program manager with Teach for India, with a couple of more schools, especially in Malvani, like Amalia shared. After that, I was working as a project manager and a project lead at Central Square Foundation from 2021 till 2025. Currently, I am working as a consultant with the Convergence Foundation as well as the Circle. So yesterday when Amalia and I were speaking, she did mention that, it would be great if you can pick up something from your fellowship days. And I went down that rabbit hole, and this is something that I found, and this is something that I thought would be relevant to share for the upcoming conversation. This was a goal sheet that I had shared, my co-fellow and I had created back in December of 2016, almost 10 years back. And if you can see, this was our class goal, very rudimentary goal that we had kept to say that for reading comprehension, math, fluency, and writing, by the end of this unit, where do I want our classroom to be? And the reason I'm sharing this is because I think this was the fellowship and being in the classroom and working with students. I think it gave the first-hand experience of what does it really mean for a 0.7 to move to a 1, right? What does it mean? This is not going to happen magically over the course of 3 months, but there has to be certain things that are put in place that is moving towards that 1 for each and every individual child. So I think that principle is something that I've taken forward with me post my fellowship in every other role that I've been in, whether it is to work with fellows and more children, or whether it is to work with state governments and therefore more students and more teachers. So I'll come to the next part, which is to say that my learnings in Teach for India, it led me to kind of try and explore what does it mean to take good quality education at scale, right? And that brought me to Central Square Foundation's work. And I'll very briefly, over the next 20 to 30 seconds, just share what is it that CSF does. Some of you may have heard of CSF. Currently, Central Square Foundation, it's been around for the last almost 12, 13, 14 years, I think now. And some of our very big focus areas has been early childhood education, foundational literacy and numeracy, EdTech, and school governance. So when I joined, I was working very specifically in foundational learning. And many of you would also know this, that with the education policy that released in 2020, there's been a lot of focus in ensuring that the foundational literacy and numeracy outcomes in our country is something that is better structured. And there is a national mission called the Nipun Bharat Mission that has been formalized towards these outcomes. So I was working with CSF in partnership with a couple of state governments in the Nipun Bharat Mission itself. Right. So I'll tell you a little bit in depth about what is it that I was doing at CSF. I was part of this team, which was called the Classroom Instruction and Practice Team. And it was essentially the academic kitchen of CSF, right? And what it helped us do, or what we were doing at the CIP team at CSF was essentially learning from research and learnings from global and local evidence with respect to what works. What really works when we are thinking about good, strong foundational learning classrooms? What are some great teacher practices? What are some practices which can be taken to scale? Right? And what were we doing with those learnings? We were, one, generating an academic point of view for the organization, which is to say that this is what we believe is a best practice because we've seen proven effects of it in similar resource settings across the world. And we were also a knowledge hub of FLN, foundational learning, public goods in the ecosystem. Apart from that, while we were building this POV, we were also conducting parallelly state level diagnostics, right? So there were states who were interested in strengthening their foundational learning programs, and we were working with them to conduct diagnostics, figure out what are some of the gaps, and then suggest some of the changes, both at a curricular capacity building and beyond some of those levels to ensure that the foundational learning programs in those states are robust. And finally, post schools reopened in 2022 and these programs started rolling out in these states, we've continued to support these states in ensuring that there's solid implementation happening on ground. Our research actually led us to, and I want to talk a little bit more about what are some of the evidences that came up and what did our research lead us to, right? And it led us to something called the science of learning. Again, some of you may have heard about this, but I'll very briefly tell you what are some of the principles from the science of learning that we took, and then we put into the design for these foundational learning programs. So for that, I would love for us to start by watching a video. It's a very short video. And I can, of course, also share this later on if you would wish to watch it and learn more from it. So if you can see, I'm just going to hit play, and if you can hear, yeah.
I think because of time, do you think it's
Got
okay?
it. Okay, yeah. I can actually
Give us
share
an
this.
overview. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I can share this video post this chat as well, and you can have, that might be better for you to also make the connections later on. But I can give you a brief idea of what does the science of learning essentially say, right? It's a field of study which takes insights from many different fields of study actually, which is neuroscience, psychology, educational research, and basically what it tells us is how does the brain learn? And especially for young learners or novice learners, what is the scientific process in which a brain would learn? And therefore, it leads us to more evidence-based or research-based methods in which a teacher can therefore teach, right? And I'll come to that in a bit because there are some principles from the science of learning, which we which we took from and which we try to put into the design of any of the foundational learning programs that we built. I think before we get into the principles, I think wanted to share a little bit about how does learning happen and what does the science of learning say about how learning happens, right? So if you can look at this particular diagram, it tells you that if I am placed in any environment, right, whether it's a classroom or any other environment, if I'm paying attention to what is being told to me, what gets activated in that moment is my working memory, right? So my memory has essentially two parts, which the first part is my working memory and the second part is my long-term memory. So, and I'm sure that all of you would know that our working memory is essentially very limited capacity. We can't put in too much of things at the same time in our working memory. That will overwhelm us. However, what does happen with our long-term memory is that it's a vast repository of things which are stored somewhere in our long-term memory, right? But for a learning to happen, for what we mean when we say a learning happens is when we say that something is going from my working memory to my long-term memory. right? So let's take a very quick example. See, if I'm giving you this addition sum, which is 28 plus 82, right? So if I consider the environment, the problem that is being thrown at you is 28 plus 82. So you need to first pay attention to what is the stimulus that's coming to you. You're using your working memory to do that processing, right? What you're then retrieving from your long-term memory is the procedure that this actually means that I need to do a column addition method, which will require for me to do a carryover. And it will also require you to remember certain math facts, right? That 8 plus 2 would be 10. And when I'm carrying it over, it would require me to add 10 plus 1, which would be 11. Now, these are not things which I'm doing in the moment. These are things which are already present in my long-term memory. I'm simply taking it from my long-term memory and using it to solve the problem that has been given to me, right? So ultimately, what everything sort of boils down to is to say that my working memory has to interact with my long-term memory for any learning to happen in the moment for the child, right? And you'll see that all of the principles that we will shortly be speaking about, all of them sort of works upon these two facts, that my working memory and my long-term memory, how am I using the interaction of these two? Right. So getting into some of the key principles, and I'll also shortly tell you how these principles showed up in some of the designs that we did. But just to quickly start off with, right, the chunking learning into small steps. The first piece, if you're opening multiple tabs in your brain, you'll know that there's always something that you're missing out. There's always something that is getting skipped, right? So whenever you want somebody to learn something with attention and in detail, and you want them to be able to remember it, it's very important that we are not overwhelming the brain of that learner, which as an educator, what that means is that we have to be very cognizant about taking a larger chunk of content and being able to break it down into smaller pieces that can be taught over time to a child. For example, and even if I'm not looking at it from the perspective of teaching to a child, right? Even when we are looking at any new information around us, if you look at this example, if you look at the first example versus the second example, when it's visually given to you in a chunked manner, is automatically something which is something that you will remember more easily than the first. So two takeaways from here. Complex content or tasks has to be broken down into small and sequenced steps. And visual clutter, unclear instructions, too many options, it increases cognitive load for our students. Number two, prior knowledge. New ideas must connect with what we already know. So if you remember that working memory has to interact with my long-term memory, so things which I already know has to be activated when I'm teaching something new to a child. Now, what does that mean? It might mean, and as an educator, sometimes we do find it difficult to figure out what kind of prior knowledge do we need to activate for the content to be more relatable to the child. And this is something that is that's a good rule of thumb to know. That one, if I'm activating prior knowledge, it has to be relevant prior knowledge for the child. It's only then that the learning that I'm providing them becomes congruent and becomes more absorbed rather than something which is irrelevant, right? And what it helps, like I said, that it helps by connecting to existing mental frameworks or schemas. And what it also helps for the child is to reduce the cognitive load by already making connections to what they know. Third is worked examples. So modeling tasks step by step and then slowly removing the support. Many of you who have been educators in classrooms, you would know that there is a process, there is a pedagogical approach called the I do, we do, you do method, where you are doing exactly this, right? You're providing a particular, you're doing a modeling, then you're allowing your students to practice along with your support, and then finally you're letting them do independent practice without your support, right? Similarly, the way we were trying to sort of put it into practice in the material that we were creating is even in worksheets, for example. So if you see this particular image, the first example was it was a solved one. And it wasn't just a solved example, it also showed the procedure of the solving, right? That what do you do first? What do you do next? How do you do the carryover, right? And then the scaffolding would decrease over time, and finally the child would have to practice this independently. Now, again, what does it do? It reduces the burden on the child's working memory, and it also increases the likelihood that they will be able to remember the strategy going ahead, right? And finally, one more principle that we used very much in the program design is ensuring that there are checks for understanding, because active thinking processes information deeply, right? So whenever I am probing somebody to think more about something, it ensures that they are again reaching out somewhere in their long-term memory to get that answer and then respond to you. So here, very quick example, if you look at this particular statement, the little bird looked at the empty nest next to his friend Pip the squirrel had moved far away, right? So one check for understanding would be it would be a factual question to ask, right? That who
Yes.
moved far away from the little bird?
Devatri, sorry,
Yes.
just because of time,
Yeah.
we can show the example and then
Yes, we are coming to the examples right after this. Okay. And finally, a deeper question which would help somebody process information in a much deeper way would be, how do you think the bird felt when he saw the empty nest and why? Now coming to what, I'll also share this later on with you, but essentially this is very quickly 10-second information. There's something called Rosenshine's Principles of Instruction, which also is founded on cognitive science, took a lot from these principles as well to put into the design. Right now, just coming into what does it mean? How did it inform classroom practices at scale? So the first thing that we did was to say that every classroom across the state that we would be working with should have high quality evidence-based classroom materials, right? What that means is that some of the core key materials that should be going to the classrooms is, one, there has to be a comprehensive learning outcome framework which has information content chunked in smaller digestible pieces and in a correct sequence. All of this has to show up in the form of lesson plans which are explicitly aligned for the teacher. And finally, there should be a workbook which has a compendium of worksheets, one for every lesson plan for the child to be able to practice. And as a supporting material for all of this, there has to be teaching and learning materials which are relevant and aligned. And finally, there has to be a structure of assessments that will enable the teacher to know how my students are doing on a weekly basis and be able to inform their instructions accordingly. So I'll give you a quick example of what does some of these principles in a particular lesson plan, which is going to every government teacher in a state, for example, what does it mean, right? So right from the beginning, from the learning outcome framework to the lesson plans, chunking information. So even if you do not look at any of the script, visually you'll be able to see that information is chunked, right? Second, this is an example of a math lesson plan. Every math lesson plan started with math talk or Ganitiya Baatcheet, which typically activated prior knowledge which was relevant. There were worked out examples, not just through the I do, we do, you do teacher modeling and scaffolded practice, but also, like I mentioned, in the worksheets as well, so that students get that additional scaffolding during their practice time. There were checks for understanding. You'll see again visually from a very top level view, you'll see that there are certain yellow boxes, yellow circles in the lesson plan. Those are essentially prompts to the teacher to ask certain checks for understanding. And finally, if you look at these two blocks, which says 13 minute and 10 minute, this is essentially the we do and the I do section of the lesson plan, which is prompting the teacher to ensure that almost 50% of the lesson time is going into student practice. So this is mostly what I wanted to share with all of you. And the reason that I think I'll just quickly wrap up in the next 10 seconds, because I know we are almost at time. I think the reason why we focused on some of these principles to build into the lesson plans, which would go to so many teachers and so many students, is to ensure that some of these basic things are being practiced every single day, right? That reinvention or excellence is, again, it's not an act that is aspirational, but it's something which is a habit which you can do every single day. So yeah, with that, I will stop. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to either put it down here, or I'm sure Amalia will tell you another way to reach out.
Thank you so much, Devatri. And yeah, just so insightful to hear from at a scale level with lesson plans, how you've taken it and each principle so very beautifully put down. So just thank you for sharing that. And folks, thank you for engaging. I know we are at time. And we were hoping to have a few more space for questions, but we also want to be cognizant of time. I think just to wrap up, what we're really trying to drive from these examples is educators like you are already doing so much in the classroom to reinvent. And this was an idea to say at a micro and a macro level, what are principles of the science of learning? What are ideas around belonging? What are relevant methods you can bring in? And these were just snippets and examples to show that come alive. So thank you all so much for engaging. I'm going to hand over to Amina for a survey. And after that, if you have any questions, we can stay back for around 2 to 3 minutes, but we just want to be cognizant of time first. So Amina, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Amalia. Thank you so much, Fatima, Devatri, and Sanket. I think this was so extensive and deep. I really, really appreciate all the work that's gone into it and the passion with which you're presenting. There's a poll coming on your screen for the attendees. It'll take a second to fill it out. Feel free to do that. That's just something we want to get out of the way. And also just my most recent message is bringing back a couple of opportunities. As you fill in the poll.
Couldn't walk at the Met Gala. Her entire outfit was crafted from nothing but actual sand.
Okay, man. Right. Actually, I can go ahead and do it. The poll is up on your screen right now. It takes a second. Fill it out. And that's about it. We'll keep the floor open for questions for the next 3 to 4 minutes before we'll have to close. So if any one of you has a burning question, the floor is open. Just feel free to come off of mute, and we'll go on for till about 7:20. Others, please fill in the poll. We can start if someone has a question for Debatri, since she just went, and if any lingering questions are there around her, around the research that's gone into the work.
And if you prefer the chat, folks have also, I know Sanket very beautifully, Fatma, both of you responded on chats. You can also do that and they can respond. But yeah, you have them here. So any question for Devatri or others?
And if you don't, that's also okay. That's also totally fine. Fatima, Devatri, and Sanket, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to keep hearing more about your work since you all are doing such fantastic things in your own areas. Thank you so much for taking out the time and for putting in the effort for the PPT and for everyone else to just join us and engage. Thank you. We'll see you on a different forum or any other program that we do. Have a great rest of the evening. And thank you so much for joining us.